Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, let's do a second anniversary and beyond predictions video. And as you can see here, I have lots to say. This might be a long video, so gird your loins. But I'll say it up front, the video is more about the and beyond part than the second anniversary part. There are a few things like wrapping up and a few things that are starting up that kind of don't have anything to do with second anniversary, so let's think about the future here. A lot of people get real tunnel vision when they think about mobile games. They'll only think about like the next month, or if it's like global players looking at JP, they'll look at the next 4 months, which is what the delay is on. But when I think about the future of mobile games, I think 1 or 2 years in the future. And then I look at other games for like the history and the context, and then kind of think about like what is likely to happen in the future. This is how we prevent making mountains out of molehills. This is how we choose fights that we can win. This is how we can make educated guesses. Alright, but a bunch of topics, and then I'll put them up on a list over here, I think it is. I want to talk about selection quests, MR and lower rarity units, unit costs going forward, EX jobs, possible sub-EX jobs or EX2 jobs, or whatever I want to call them, the future of the Fest banner, pre-EX jobs collaboration reruns, meaning Final Fantasy XIV or Tactics, and then Sadari. Okay, first thing I wanted to talk about was the end of the cycle of selection quests in JP. We got all of the 8 elements, and then we saw from the recent producer's letter that they will go back and then they will add EX stages to the selection quests, so you can get a piece of equipment. People are wondering if there's going to be a second cycle. And I think that's very possible, and it would be a good idea because they've been popular. I think people would enjoy more. But it doesn't have to be right away, and I would prefer it's not right away. And then I think looking at the EX stages that they're adding, it won't be right away, so that's good. My guess is a fraction of the player base has beaten all of the different elements of the selection quest, and then a fraction of those have taken all of the characters to 115 or 120 because those missions are tough. I really think the developers could wait the 8 months or the full year before releasing the next selection quest, because they're going to keep a lot of us busy for that amount of time. And I've said it before, but I love the selection quests, and I'm very impressed and amazed that the developers could get such kind of compelling content out of lower rarity stuff. In many other games, they've tried and failed to do content sort of centered on lower rarity stuff. It's usually kind of slow and boring feeling. But in War of the Visions, like folks that have been around mobile games a while, we would look at the MR and lower rarity units and we're like, oh, these characters are pretty kind of fleshed out and unique and strong. And so that really kind of laid the groundwork to make really interesting selection quest content. And I wouldn't be surprised if even before launch they had selection quests in mind, and that they wanted people to work on MR and lower rarity units. In other games, the lower rarity content just kind of feels like an afterthought, just sort of bolted onto the side of the game, clumsily. But in War of the Visions, it feels much more integrated and natural. And then related to this is the future of MR and lower rarity units. I've had a hunch for a while, and I've mentioned it here and there, like in comments and stuff, but I will announce it now officially. I believe a bunch of new MR and lower rarity units will be put into the game. Just boom, and then like based off of like new characters from Season 2. Put them in the hatchery pool along with all the existing MR and lower rarity units. And I think that would be really fun and also shocking. And then they could be designed in order to significantly reduce the difficulty of the current selection quests, and then possibly be really right or set us up for the second wave of selection quests. That's typically how power creep works in these games. And then that would also make the case for pushing back the release of the second cycle of selection quests so that we all have time to work on building up those MR and lower rarity units. As for handout MR units like Shudima or Krace, I think they are gone forever. The floor now really seems like cost 80 handout units, UR. And speaking of cost 80 units, I don't think they will ever release another one on a banner. I mean, you think about it, who would want to pull for that? And so that makes me wonder if they would ever release Fravia from Global onto JP, because she is cost 80. Maybe if they retooled her for JP, raised her cost, that might make her more attractive. Or if they made her handout unit in JP, that would be interesting. Alright, maybe this is more related to second anniversary, but a lot of people are guessing that there's going to be like a cost 120 unit or like a NeoVisions unit announced at second anniversary. But the developers have already said that they will not announce a cost 120 or something similar at that anniversary. My feeling is that the next two big jumps in like unit forms already happened in cost 100 and then EX jobs. Gumi and Square have plenty of experience with like player outrage at announcements of new unit forms. And so I kind of feel like that the way that they slowly rolled out cost 100 and then EX jobs was like a way to try to get that kind of higher, more expensive form into the game without upsetting players. Of course, the JP players are savvy and they knew what was going on and they got angry anyways. And so Gumi and Square, they had to backpedal some stuff or add some stuff. Like they lowered the price of shards, they added the star exchange system, they lengthened the time of collaborations, they handed out higher cost handout units, and possibly, this is just a theory of mine from Final Fantasy VII, they may have lowered the cost of Cloud from 100 to 90. But things as they are in JP, there seems to be an equilibrium between players and developers. I can't speak for global players. But, like why do this? Why do this slow rollout? Let's imagine a scenario here. In War of the Visions, the first 2 years, EX jobs and cost 100 units do not exist. Everything is cost 80, power creep is slow, and then power balance is good. But imagine at second anniversary, they announce the first cost 100 unit, which is double the price shards, half the pull rate, and then they also announce EX jobs. And then for the unit, they announce it's part of a new Fest banner, which will come around once a month. People would flip out, and the fury would be greater than all of the previous furies combined together. And that is what the developer's trying to get around, I think. They introduced the idea of cost 100 units from day one with Gilgamesh, and then the first year they only released one every 6 months. That was a slow rollout. And then they waited on EX jobs until first anniversary, which still felt very early for many of us. But even in their slides, they tried to get around saying that this was like a new form. They just said, oh, your job levels get upgraded. And then like, oh, also the unit levels get upgraded too. And then some players quit at that announcement, but not a ton, I feel. But then when they sped up the release of cost 100 units by doing the 3 in the row, Mont, Helena, and Dwayne, that so far has been the high point of JP player outrage, and a lot of people did quit at that time. And it didn't help that it was at the same time that Uma Musume came out and became a big hit. But in response to that, they made maybe the biggest concession I've ever seen of developers to the user base, where they permanently lower the price of the cost 100 shards. I can't imagine how much money Gumi and Square left on the table with that decision, but they must have felt like it was a choice between life or death for the game, so that's why they went for it. And then finally, the last kind of most recent significant change to the the price of the game. They released the Fest banner, which honestly only left ripples in the JP community. It didn't leave waves. And so here we are coming up on second anniversary, and people are wondering what new unit form the developers are going to announce. And my hope and my wish is that everything that I've described up to now will take place of an announcement of a new form, and that there will be no announcement. Hopefully everything that I've explained up to now was just leading the groundwork so that we could get to like this altitude and then we can just cruise, go into the third year, possibly even the fourth year, without a great unit form jump. That being said, if they did announce something, I could believe EX jobs, sub-EX jobs could be announced. Like right now we got that hexagon, and we got the triangle coming off the top on the ability board. Maybe they'll add triangles to the sides there. But I don't know. Maybe the Alchemist Code players can tell me more about this. But I don't know, like, if they would keep the max level at 120. Like, they have those 2 triangles on the sides. Maybe they wouldn't have level up nodes. and I don't know what we would need to upgrade them, if we need more shards or more flowers or just something totally different. I would prefer to beat a high difficulty quest with that character in order to unlock those additional nodes. So that wouldn't take any more materials. You know that if they took more shards, people would be getting on their calculators and calculating the dollar amount to take the character from 0 to however many shards it is, which is the wrong way to think about it because they hand out so many anyways. But just to make the company look as greedy and as bad as possible, they would do that. Another reason why I could see this happening now is because the implementation of EX jobs, it actually wasn't that big of a jump in power creep. It's not like all of the non-EX job characters were obsoleted with the coming of EX jobs, even with brand new characters getting the EX jobs. I said in my previous video, but I used level 99 MR Mariel against the brand new Yuna level 120, and she was fine. It's still a game of matchups and resistances and stuff, and if you can work with that, then levels don't matter as much. But yeah, the worst case scenario with EX subjobs would be new max unit level 160, another 800 shards, and another dozen flowers to unlock everything on those nodes. I'm very positive they won't do that because that would be super boneheaded. So yeah, I hope they do not announce any new unit form for the 2nd anniversary, and I think the game and then the system's at a place where they don't need to. We can continue on with the place that we're at now. But then I said this exact same thing last year leading up to 1st anniversary, and they betrayed me. But hopefully the pain that we went through at 1st anniversary was to make 2nd anniversary smoother for us. Imagine if 2nd anniversary was just a roadmap announcement and handing out rewards and showing off the new cost 100 unit or a collaboration or something. And it was just your average live stream, but just with a more celebratory atmosphere. I think the JP community would be flabbergasted, but in a good way. They'd be like, what? No new unit form at an anniversary? There's nothing to get angry about, we can just enjoy the game? The JP community doesn't care as much about being made to feel special by the developers because Japanese folks as a nation have an inferiority complex. But an anniversary like I just described would spread good feelings all around, which I think people would like for that. So yeah, come on, Gumi and Square, make my dream come true. Alright, next let's talk about the Fest banner. I guess it was inevitable that it would come, and then we got hints of it looking at global with the way Fravia and Dwayne were handled. What I'm interested in is we have that plan of the 5 Fest units, those crystal warriors. We can see their silhouettes on the picture. What I'm interested in is once we have those 5 characters added, if they will continue to add characters to that banner. What often happens with other games with Fest banners is that the Fest banners will have a limit. They'll stop at 5, or maybe they'll go to 10. And then what happens when they get to 10, like in Monster Strike, is that they'll take the 5 older ones and then retire them, graduate them. They'll put them either in the standard pool or they'll put them in a different type of Fest banner. And so over the course of years, the lineup of the Fest banner will change. And yes, you heard me right, different types of Fest banners. Like in Monster Strike, there are kind of 2 main types of Fest banners. One at the 1st of the month, one in the middle of the month. And then on the side, they have elemental banners, just dark characters or just fire characters. And then the elemental banners, they also function like the Fest banners, where they're around for a week or less, come around about once a month. My guess with this Crystal Fest banner is once they add the 5 characters as planned, they will just leave it like that for a long while, if not forever. And later, if they do a second round of another story side quest, then maybe they can add more to the Fest banner. Maybe up to 8, 1 for every element. But 8 pickup units in one banner sounds like a bit much, so I don't know. But in War of the Visions, I don't see them graduating Fest units to other banners or the standard pool. My feeling is they will just kind of add more types of Fest banners. And so like in Global, you have your Global First Fest banner with like Zazan and Fravia. You might have another Fest banner that runs at a different time of the month for the Crystal Warriors. Okay, long video, thanks for hanging in there. Let's talk about collaborations. There are still Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy Tactics, which came out before EX jobs were implemented. Final Fantasy XIV is probably going to get the rerun this year. That was kind of a hint that the developers were dropping. But Tactics really sounds like it's going to be next year. And so they're probably going to be the units that get the EX jobs last of any in War of the Visions, which kind of feels appropriate somehow. Alright, then finally, Sadari. When is he getting a unit? I'm pretty certain later in the story he's going to turn into some like horrible monster like Final Fantasy Tactics with the Zodiac Stones. And that would be like a cost 100 unit. And so I thought like regular Sadari, he could be a good choice for like a lower cost unit. And I thought he even might be a good like reward for the selection quests. But then the developer said that he was too special to do as a selection quest unit, so that kind of piques my interest. So yeah, he'll almost certainly be a Hatcher unit, cost 90 or cost 100. But yeah, whenever he arrives, I'm going to go for him hard. I want him, and then I'll put him on a team with Sasayaki and get thoroughly creeped out. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to say. The number one thing I'm going to be keeping an eye out for in the live stream is if they announce like new unit forms or like sub-EX jobs or something. Okay, thanks for watching and we'll see you again. Take care.